the Agile brand.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Agile brand, where we discuss marketing technology and customer experience trends, insights, and ideas with enterprise and technology platform leaders. We focus on the people, processes, data, and platforms that make brands successful, scalable, customer-focused, and sustainable. This is what makes an Agile brand. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advising Fortune 1000 brands on MarTech, marketing operations, and CX, best-selling author and speaker. The Agile Brand Podcast is brought to you by TechSystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that my latest book, Priority is Action: 7 Principles for Better Strategies, Decisions, and Outcomes, is now available. In it, I give ideas and insights for leaders and teams that need to make meaningful progress on their priorities. After all, our priorities are what we do, not what we say we'd like to do. You can find Priority is Action on Amazon or learn more on my website, gregkihlstrom.com. Now let's get on to the show. In 2023, the global cybersecurity workforce grew 8.7%, reaching a record high of 5.5 million people, according to the 2023 ISC2 Global Workforce Study. However, the industry is still grappling with a substantial deficit of 4 million professionals to properly safeguard the world's emerging digital threats. As the global cybersecurity workforce continues to expand, the industry faces significant challenges in meeting the demand for skilled professionals. Today, we're discussing an innovative solution to this talent shortage, leveraging the unique skills and qualities of veterans. Joining us is Nakisha Dixon, Vice President of Human Resources at Vercara, who has keen insights into the adaptability and potential of veterans in the cybersecurity field. Nakisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
Yeah. So first question for you, with your background in human resources and your focus at Vercara, could you share with us how you came to recognize the potential of veterans in the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, of course. So I actually was fortunate to know about the importance of veterans in the workforce because I'm the daughter of a veteran mom who was it was pretty cool because when she was in the armed forces, there weren't a lot of women, especially women medics. And she was a medic. And when she transitioned to civilian life, she originally had a hard time finding a job, even though she had the medic background. And this was in the 70s, right? So she eventually became a lab technician, right, at the VA hospitals working with veterans. So from a young age, I pretty much, going to my mom's job, knowing about veterans, knowing her background, having a lot of siblings that are also in the armed forces as well. I understood the importance that they give to the country and how important it is for us to assist them when they return back to civilian life. One of the things that I've been fortunate in my HR career, especially working in IT, is the ability to craft programs and to develop recruitment strategies and initiatives that allow me to really look at how we can best recruit a diverse workforce, especially when it becomes, when you're thinking about veterans. So there's so many, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's so many skill sets that veterans have that are just amazing in the workforce: discipline, the desire to do a great job. And this is so essential in cybersecurity, where we're very policy driven, especially within the operations and technology groups.
Yeah, great. Well, so let's dive in then. We're gonna explore talking about the potential of veterans in cybersecurity. And so, as I mentioned at the top of the show, with the cybersecurity workforce growing yet having that deficit, definitely need to find great fits within that. And veterans with their skill, discipline, structured training definitely represent an untapped resource here. So can you discuss, what are some of the key qualities that veterans bring to the table which align well with the cybersecurity profession?
Right. So here at Vercara, we're fortunate to have veterans in pretty much all of our disciplines. We have G&A and sales within our operation and tech groups, which is typically what I see in the HR realm is a lot of our vets will transition to the into the operations or technology groups, but across the board, the qualities that I constantly see is the eagerness to learn and get the job done. There's, I will say, from knowing about boot camp and training and how to that discipline that is learned and ingrained during that process, and as well as being in the armed forces, it comes to work every day. There's amazing teamwork with our veterans, right? They want to not only do a good job, but there's this camaraderie about I want to do a good job with my peers. I want to do a good job together. There's a whole mentality that it's people centric to do a good job, and that is amazing for any employer. The skills, tenacity, and then the one common theme that I do see at Vercara, as well as I've seen at other employers that have hired veterans, is that there's always a way to get things solved. Right? There's never a problem that's too big. There's this real strong detail orientation and thoroughness in problem solving that is just essential when, especially, when you're thinking about today, where we have this blended generational workforce and skills that transcend across age demographics are essential for companies.
Yeah, yeah. And so what does this look like at Vercara as far as, how have you been able to integrate veterans into the cybersecurity teams? And, you touched on some of the benefits already, but, what have you observed kind of in the process of doing this?
Right. So the good thing about Vicara, and what we're very lucky is that we have a good amount of veterans that already that work here, and they refer others, or they tell us about different programs that will help in recruitment of veterans. So one thing that we ensure is that we look at not only the onboarding component where they're learning their job, they're learning how to get set up, but we really, really focus on orientation. So we think about things in that first 1 week, right? When a employee comes to work the first day, especially our veterans, they want to do a great job, and they have, again, like I mentioned, they have this need, this eagerness to exceed what is expected from them. So making sure that we give a good roadmap of what they can expect. And again, no orientation program or process is going to be without a few hiccups, right? We're not perfect, but it's always doing our best to ensure them what a normal day will look like. Again, keeping in mind that they're transitioning a lot of times to civilian life. So making sure they have a roadmap of what to expect. That's what we do really, really well at Vercara. And also wanting to hear about their experience, right? I worked at a company years ago that did not understand transferable skills, right? They didn't understand that. And I think what we do at Vercara amazingly well is that we want to hear different ideas, different skills you used in the past that can be utilized here. Doesn't matter what your MOS was. And if you learned something or you're thinking about something that we can implement here that will make our lives easier, more efficient, we want to hear about it. So all those things really help our veterans transition into the different teams they're in, whether it's sales or operations or technology across the board.
I'm excited to announce an exclusive offer that will enhance your listening experience of the Agile Brand with Greg Kilstrom podcast. You can now listen to my show, The Agile Brand, completely ad-free on your favorite listening apps like Spotify and Apple for just $4.99 a month, giving you access to all the great conversations with top thought leaders in marketing technology, CX, and more without the ads. To learn more and sign up, follow the link in the show notes to listen to the Agile Brand completely ad-free. Check it out now. And so, it definitely sounds like Vercara is really, really embraced this and benefited from, from this way of thinking. And, there may be, though, some companies out there that are maybe have some misconceptions or just have not embraced, some of the things that you mentioned, some of the benefits of what some of these veterans can really bring to the table. And so some of this might mean that there needs to be a mindset shift, again, overcoming some misconceptions or preconceived ideas. So, how do you recommend that a company look at this? And you've touched on why it can be beneficial, but I wonder how a company, again, that doesn't really put a focus on this, what would you recommend them doing to make a shift in this direction?
Yeah, that's a great question because I remember when I started looking at doing that diversity recruitment, looking at veterans, right? There wasn't a lot of resources as we have now. So I say this because the Society of Human Resource Management, they have a Veterans at Work certificate program, right? A lot of HR professionals are aware of SHRM, which is Society of Human Resource Management, but they may not be aware that they have a certificate program that is free. And the whole idea was a few years ago, SHRM put together an initiative to basically improve the number of veterans that were working or were able to transition to civilian life. And this certificate basically talks about tools and knowledge they need to build out a robust talent recruitment program for their company size, right? Us at Vercara, we're around 300 employees. So our program may not be the same program than a company that has 3,000 or 30. It's what makes the most sense for your organization. And the good thing about the certificate allows them to really think about avenues, right? You don't have to go and recreate the wheel. You don't have to start from scratch. You have a proven method to start doing more of your organization. I think a lot of times when we think about recruitment, especially in today's market, because if you think about it, the Great Resignation was 2 years ago, and us in talent acquisition, I mean, we had to really fight for every candidate. We had to go above and beyond. We needed to get, we're paying more. We were over hiring because it was just a switch in how we traditionally recruit. And now the market has changed back to what close to the traditional, and the Great Resignation is not as prevalent anymore. But that does not mean that we just wait for veterans to apply to our jobs. We need to be going out, building partnerships. We need to not just expect them to apply online. We need to make ourselves as a company an employer of choice for veterans.
Yeah, and to build on that, then what has been effective in doing that, and getting in front of these veterans. I would imagine, I've known a few myself that transitioned out of service and didn't really know exactly where to look, had a lot of applicable skills, but weren't really sure how to kind of start a new career. So how do you get in front of these people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we do at Vercara is when we decided that we wanted to focus on diversity hiring and specializing in veterans, we realized that there's so many different organizations. There's like MOA, there's Thrive DX, there's the DoD Skills Bridge, which is an awesome program. I'll talk about that in a second. But we realized there was already agencies that did the groundwork for us. All we had to do was make the connection. So we formed strategic partnerships with these organizations, and we go to their recruitment events. Again, simple movements to make an impact. These organizations, they have the one-on-ones with veterans. They provide additional services, so they have the connections. We just need to show up and build these partnerships with them. And quite honestly, these partnerships are free. They're not charging a fee. They're not charging, in any, if you hire someone, none of that. It's just building and knowing what's out there. And we, our commitment to hiring vets is so strong that we, even as a small company, we do compete, right? We, around the summer, we try to do a targeted recruitment campaign that just focuses on our desire to continue to hire veterans, right? That might just be a LinkedIn post, that may just be an article that I write and make sure that it's posted for our organization. But again, like when you think about commitment to hiring veterans, think about developing veterans in your workforce. A lot of times, especially if you're like me, who is Type A always wants to think big and do big, but you don't have to do everything. You just have to do something and be consistent and track it to make sure that it's successful.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's take a maybe the next step is you're we've got veterans in applying for jobs and needing some training and development as well. So veterans often come with that strong foundation that you already touched on of discipline, agility, but to get into cybersecurity, obviously there's often some training required. So what training and development initiatives have proven effective at Vercara for helping veterans transition successfully into cybersecurity roles?
That's a great question because we think about hiring, we think about onboarding and orientation, but we don't talk a lot about training and long term career development. So one thing, we're a small company, we're newer, so we're learning as we go about training and development. But there's one area in training and development that I think when we're starting to build programs or we're starting to ensure that we transition veterans successfully into cybersecurity roles, the one thing that we really have to ensure that we don't pigeonhole veterans, right? We're lucky that we have a lot of different personality analytical tools that we use to see what employees' motivations are in regards to how they like to work. Are they outgoing? Are they more focused on working with individual projects? Are they more detail oriented? Are they more big picture? What kind of rewards and recognition they like the best? And we utilize that profile to really find out what motivates the employee on an individual level. And then we think about training and development because Vakara strongly believes that the employee should own their career development and that the manager should help guide, more like coach versus determine. We really work with our vets to help them understand what the opportunity is for them, right? We're a small company, but we have a lot of different avenues that an employee can go into, and we have a promotion rate of about 40% at this point. And what that means is that we strongly believe in hiring from within and developing from within. When you think about training and development and transitioning successfully into these cybersecurity roles, there's a couple of traits that are across the board that I see, irrespective of the individual training and development that we do. But our vets really want to follow the rules and they like policies and procedure. So we supply that on day one. We make sure that our vets understand company norms because, again, lately we've been hiring a lot of vets. This is their first civilian role in some time. So they want to understand what are the company norms, especially working in a remote environment or a hybrid environment, what's expected from them. And they have this strong sense of wanting to do the right thing. So they want to know what the norms are, what's anticipated, what are those policies and procedures, and they want to go above their commitment to do a good job. That goes right back to we get a large amount of applicants for our entry level IT roles. And the one thing I love about the amount of applicants we get for the entry level IT roles is we have a proven training and development role to get, and that's within our SOC team. We have a proven training and development plan to get employees up and running. So a lot of our vets that do come through that program, they love it because it's tested, it's true. Every day you know exactly what you're going to learn, and I think it's one thing that we do extremely well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great to hear. Well, Nakisha, as we wrap up here, what advice would you give to other HR leaders? Certainly we've talked a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great reasons to look at veteran talent for these roles, and a lot of just foundational skills and things they bring to the table as well as potential. But what advice would you give to other HR leaders looking to tap into this veteran talent market for cybersecurity and maybe other technical fields as well?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me as a guest. And
Yeah.
to the HR leaders, make hiring veterans a commitment, right? Learn the best practices, try some new initiatives, go out, form strategic partnerships, get the resources that are online about how to develop a program, and really commit to not just checking the boxes. Do your homework and make sure that your entire leadership team is committed to hiring veterans and what that looks like for your organization. It's a great endeavor. It's not just, on the armed forces to find roles for our service people. It's one of our responsibilities as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, again, I'd like to thank Nakisha Dixon, Vice President of Human Resources at Vercara, for joining us and sharing her valuable insights on the integration of veterans into the cybersecurity workforce. For more information on Nakisha and Vercara's initiatives, follow the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.gregkillstrom.com. That's GregKihlstrom.com. While you're there, check out my series of best-selling Agile Brand guides covering a wide variety of marketing technology topics, or you can search for Greg Kihlstrom on Amazon. The Agile Brand is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Until next time, stay agile.
The Agile Brand.
If you're tired of hearing the same old judgmental, shaming financial advice about buying too many lattes from old white men who conveniently ignore issues like systemic oppression, it's time to join the Financial Feminist podcast. Hosted by Tori Dunlap, a globally recognized money educator, Financial Feminist is the #1 money podcast for women. It goes beyond just talking about money. It explores how money uniquely affects women. Featuring fascinating guests like Ramit Sethi, Amy Porterfield, Maya Vander, Hannah Berner, Justin Baldoni, Eve Rodsky, and experts across finance and feminism, the podcast dives into topics such as the investing gap, sex work, diet culture, MLMs, the prison industrial complex, the psychology of money, and much more. Additionally, listeners can benefit from how-to episodes like how to start investing or how to finally become debt-free. Join in smashing the patriarchy and getting rich one episode at a time. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by the Yap Media Podcast Network. I'm Hala Taha, CEO of the award-winning digital media empire, Yap Media, and host of Yap Young and Profiting Podcast, a #1 entrepreneurship and self-improvement podcast where you can listen, learn, and profit. On Young and Profiting Podcast, I interview the brightest minds in the world, and I turn their wisdom into actionable advice that you can use in your daily life. Each week, we dive into a new topic like the art of side hustles, how to level up your influence and persuasion, and goal setting. I interview A-list guests on Young and Profiting. I've got the best guests, like the world's #1 negotiation expert, Chris Voss, Shark Damon John, serial entrepreneurs Alex and Layla Hermosi, and even movie stars like Matthew McConaughey. There's absolutely no fluff on my podcast, and that's on purpose. Every episode is jam-packed with advice that's going to push your life forward. I do my research, I get straight to the point, and I take things really seriously, which is why I'm known as the podcast princess and how I became one of the top podcasters in the world in less than 5 years. Young and Profiting Podcast is for all ages. Don't let the name fool you. It's an advanced show. As long as you want to learn and level up, you will be forever young. So join podcast royalty and subscribe to Young and Profiting Podcast, or YAP, like it's often called by my YAP fam, on Apple, Spotify, CastBox, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.